The study titled Floodrift, Development of a Mobile Game Disaster Preparedness for the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office in Mamburao, Occidental, Mindoro, focuses on developing an interactive mobile game that teaches users proper flood preparedness and response. The game aims to help people understand what to do before, during, and after a flood through engaging gameplay and decision-making scenarios. It is designed to support the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office in promoting flood awareness and preparedness among residents in Mamburao. This is the main interface of our game called Floodrift. The screen presents the overall theme of the game, which focuses on surviving and making smart decisions during a flood disaster. The background shows a flooded environment with heavy rain, submerged roads, damaged surroundings, and evacuation signs to immediately establish the disaster atmosphere of the game. At the center of the screen is the official Floodrift logo, while the player is given three main options: main menu, play, and exit. The interface uses a pixel art visual style to create a retro but immersive gameplay experience for mobile users. This screen serves as the entry point of the game where players can start their journey, access the game features, or exit the application.
After pressing the main menu button, the player is taken to the game navigation screen. This interface allows the player to access different game features before starting the actual gameplay. The level buttons allow players to choose or access available stages in the game. The shop features allow players to purchase or unlock useful items and rewards using collected points. Meanwhile, the inventory section stores the player's collected emergency supplies and usable items. At the top of the screen, the player can also see their profile, earn coins, and other game resources. This interface helps organize the game system while giving players a more interactive and engaging experience.
Before the gameplay begins, the player is introduced to the level introduction screen. In this scene, the gameplay displays level 1, the first step, which symbolizes the beginning of the player's survival journey during the flood disaster. The dark story background, lightning effects, and flooded surroundings help help to create attention and prepare the player emotionally for the challenges ahead. This level introduction also gives the player time to mentally prepare before entering the actual gameplay and decision-making scenarios. The phrase "stop anywhere" to continue allows the player to proceed into the first stage of the game, where they will begin making important survival decisions based on flood preparedness and safety awareness.
In the first scene of the game, the main character is watching a weather report about incoming storms. This scene introduces the flood situation and teach players the importance of staying informed and listening to weather updates before a disaster happens. In the second scene, the rain becomes stronger and the flood water outside starts to rise. This part shows the player that the situation is becoming more dangerous, emphasizing the importance of making quick and responsible decisions during emergencies. After the introduction, the game transitions into the main gameplay. This screen marks the beginning of the player's survival journey as the flood continues to worsen. In this scene, the player is given two choices: prepare emergency supply or ignore the warning sign. This decision-making feature was designed to teach players the importance of early preparation before a flood disaster. If the player chooses the correct decision, the character begins collecting emergency supplies such as first aid kit and the other essential items. This scene highlights the importance of preparedness during disasters. In this part of the game, the player is taught to turn off the electricity before the flood becomes born. This helps prevent electrical hazards such as electrocution and fire, which common danger during flooding. This scene shows the game's preparation system where the player can gather important survival items such as flashlight, canned goods, water, first aid kit, extra clothes, and a radio. The inventory system provides interactive gameplay and educational value. In the outdoor scene, the player must decide whether to evacuate or remain inside the house. These parts teach players that evacuation decisions should depend on the situation, especially when roads are blocked and floodwaters are dangerous. In this scene, the character eats food to maintain energy while waiting during the emergency situation. This teach players the importance of taking care of their health and conserving energy during disaster.
In this scene, the floodwater inside the house continues to rise quickly. The player is given an important decision whether to move to a higher area immediately or stay downstairs and hope the flood will stop rising. This teaches players the importance of acting early during flood emergencies. Here, the player successfully moves upstairs together with the emergency supplies. This demonstrates a safe disaster preparedness action because staying on higher ground reduces the risk of getting trapped by floodwaters. In this part of the game, strong winds and flooding caused the emergency kit to fall downstairs into the floodwater. This creates another challenge for the player and shows how dangerous conditions can suddenly become worse during disasters. The player must decide now whether to go downstairs and retrieve the emergency supplies or remain safely upstairs. A warning message reminds of the player that floodwaters are unstable and dangerous. This scene teaches players to prioritize personal safety over belongings. In this scene, the player chooses to stay upstairs instead of risking going into the floodwater. This demonstrates good decision making because avoiding dangerous flood currents can prevent injuries or drowning. In this scene, the player patiently waits upstairs while the flood continues below. This scene represents staying calm during emergencies and remaining in a safer location until conditions improve.
Player rests to conserve energy while waiting for rescue or safer conditions. This teaches players that staying calm and preserving strength is important during long emergency situations. In this scene, the player must decide whether to eat food to maintain energy or avoid eating too much so supplies will last longer. This teaches resource management and survival decision making during disasters. Here, the player chooses to eat enough food to maintain energy and stamina. This highlights the importance of proper nutrition and staying physically prepared during emergencies. Player safely waits upstairs while monitoring the storms outside. This scene emphasizes patience, preparedness, and staying alert while waiting for flood conditions to improve.
In this scene, the storm finally weakens and the floodwaters begin to calm down. This marks the end of the dangerous situations and shows the outcome of the players' good decisions throughout the game. This is the result screen shows after the player survives the flood. The game displays the player statistics such as health, stamina, and survival time, and also the coins collected and good decisions made. This rewards players for making safe and responsible choices.
This part of the game is called the post-assessment skill. Its purpose is to evaluate the player decision and provide educational feedback after completing the flood scenarios. Instead of simplify ending the game, these features help players reflect on the choices they made during the situation. On the left side, the game displays decision feedback summary. Each decision made by the player is reviewed one by one. The game explains whether the decision was safe or risky and describes possible consequences during a real flood disaster. For example, preparing emergency supply early helped the player become more prepared, while staying in the dangerous area could increase the risk of being trapped by floodwaters. On the right side, what you did well section highlights the player positive action throughout the game. This include preparing emergency supplies, moving to higher ground, maintaining energy, staying calm during the flood, and the following safety precautions such as turning off electricity to avoid electrical hazard. This encouraged players to recognize the importance of proper disaster preparedness and responsible decision making. At the bottom, the reflection section provides an overall message about the player's performance. It reminds players that good decision, awareness, preparedness, and quick action are important during flood emergency. The reflection also reinforced the educational goal of the game by connecting the gameplay experience to real-life flood safety practices. The post-assessment screen serves as a both feedback system and a learning tool. It allows players to understand the impact of their decision, improve their disaster response knowledge, and apply what they learned to real-life emergency situations.
In this scene, the player is given two choices. The correct decision is to prepare emergency supplies, while the wrong decision is to ignore the situation for now. The player chooses to ignore the preparation warning, which represent a lack of readiness before the flood becomes worse. This scene teaches players that delaying preparation during disasters can reduce their chance of survival. The interface also shows the character's health, stamina, and survival time, allowing players to monitor their condition throughout the game. After ignoring the warning signs, the floodwaters continue to rise inside the house. The television broadcasts emergency news about the possible flood, showing that the danger is becoming more serious. These scenes demonstrate how disaster can quickly worsen when people fail to prepare early. The environment changed visually to help the players to feel the increasing danger and urgency of the situation. At this point, the player is given another important decision. Instead of moving to higher ground immediately, the player chooses to save personal belongings first. This is wrong choice represent how people sometimes prioritize material things instead of their own safety during emergencies. The warning message at the bottom reminds the players that staying too long in dangerous areas may put their lives at risk. In this gameplay scene, the player attempts to carry important belongings while the flood waters continue to rise. Because of the extra weight and delayed movement, the character becomes slower and more vulnerable. This demonstrates one of the main lessons of the game. During disaster, prioritizing belongings instead of your safety can lead to dangerous consequences. As time passes, the flood becomes deeper and more dangerous. The player struggles to move while holding belongings, showing how delayed evacuation increases the risk of being trapped by flood water. The floating objects around the environment also emphasize the severity of the flooding situations and create more realistic disaster atmosphere. In this scene, the player is no longer able to escape safely. The floodwaters become too strong, and the character start losing control while trying to survive. This moment highlights the consequences of poor decision making during disaster. The game teaches the game teaches players that hesitation and unsafe priorities can place lives in serious danger.
Eventually, the player fails to survive the flood. The character is swept away by the rapidly rising water after making unsafe decisions earlier in the game. These failures is designed to emotionally impact players and help them understand the importance of preparedness, fast decision making, and prioritizing safety during flood emergencies.
After the player loses, the game displays the failed ending results screen. This interface summarizes the player's performance, including points collected, survival time, good decisions, and bad decisions made throughout the gameplay. Unlike the successful ending, the player receives no survival bonus because the unsafe choices resulted in failure. This feature helps players reflect on their decisions and encourage them to improve in the next attempt.
The final screen shows meant for the player's wrong decision. These features explain what mistakes were made in the gameplay and provide safety recommendation for real-life flood situations. The game reminds players that ignoring flood warnings, delaying evacuation, and prioritizing belongings over safety can increase the risk of drowning and injury. On the right side of the screen, the gameplay provides proper action that should have been done, such as evacuating immediately, preparing emergency supplies beforehand, turning off electricity, and moving to higher ground. Lastly, the reflections section summarized the lesson learned from the scenario. It emphasized that floods can rise unexpectedly fast, and delaying evacuation to save belongings can put lives in danger. Through this cross-assessment feature, the game not only entertains players but also educates them about proper flood preparedness and disaster responses.